If you've been around writing circles for any length of time, you've undoubtedly run into this idea of a writing sprint. Today I want to talk about what writing sprints are, why they might be helpful to you, and how you can use them to supercharge your writing. My name is Seth. I'm a full-time author who writes fantasy books and makes YouTube videos about being an author. So if that's something that you are interested in, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Go ahead and like this video while you're at it if you find it helpful at all. At their most basic, writing sprints are a period of time that you spend doing nothing but writing. No distractions, nothing else, just focusing on writing. And most of the time, people set a timer and they run their sprint, or rather they type their sprint, or maybe they even write by hand their sprint, trying to get as many words as they possibly can packed into that period of time. Every author runs sprints differently, but basic sprints are all the same no matter who you are. It's just a set period of time when you focus on absolutely nothing but writing. A lot of professional writers swear by them, and some of them even do sprints daily in order to get their words in. Typically, if I'm running sprints, what I do is I set two timers, one that's going to go off when I want to start the sprint, and the other that's going to go off when it's time to end the sprint. And then once that first timer goes off, I concentrate solely on writing. I ignore everything else in the world until the other timer goes off. Once the second timer goes off, I know my sprint is done, and so I check my word count to see how many words I've managed to write in that sprint. Some days, when I sprint, I write a lot. Some days when I sprint, I don't write a lot. But sprinting, regardless of whether you're writing 100 words or 1,000 words, is helpful to get you focused and get you going. Typically, a sprint is going to be anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes. A 5-minute sprint is often called a micro sprint, and 30-minute sprints or 20-minute sprints or 15-minute sprints are just called sprints. Anything above 30 minutes isn't really a sprint. It's starting to get into long distance. And so typically if you hear sprint, someone is talking about 5 to 30 minutes of concentrated writing time. But the overall goal is simply to write as many words as you possibly can in whatever that time period is. It's still a sprint if you're only doing it for 5 minutes and you only end up writing 50 words. It's also a sprint if you're writing for 30 minutes and you end up writing 1,400 words. So the question is, why would anybody want to do this? What's the actual benefit? Well, writing sprints regularly can actually drastically increase your words per hour. That is how many words you could write in a given hour. Just like running in real life, every time you sit down and you focus yourself on simply writing for whatever that period of time is, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, when you focus yourself on writing for that period, you'll get better and better and better at it. Again, it's just like exercising. You're going to get better at doing the motions that you repeat. So if you're doing writing sprints, you're going to get better at writing faster. That doesn't always mean that what you write is going to be great. Sometimes I write something, I finish my sprint, and then I look at it and I'm like, it's not great. And I have to go back and edit it or fix it. But the key is practicing starting those sprints, practicing sitting down to write, practicing getting those words out. So let's talk about why a sprint actually works. The first reason that sprints work is because they build focus. Focus is not something that magically appears and disappears, though often it really feels like that. Focus is actually something that you direct, you build. And if you don't practice building focus, it's going to be really hard when you want to sit down and write to do it. But by putting parameters around the time you are going to work, by saying, I'm only going to do this for 15 minutes, I'm not going to do anything else during that time, you are making focus much, 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 much easier for yourself. And as you start sprinting, as you start doing your writing sprints, you're going to find that that focus just comes faster and cleaner. And when you're trying to focus, it's easier and easier to do. Again, repeated actions are the ones that improve. The second thing that sprints do is they actually create a reward system in your brain. When you sprint, you're not trying to beat somebody else, but you are trying to beat yourself. If I set a 5-minute timer to sprint and I pound out some words, when I end that sprint, I'm going to look at the number of words that I've written in that 5 minutes, and I'm going to compare it against every other 5-minute increment of time that I've written. And so as I go and as I naturally get better at writing, that number is going to increase. I've created a natural reward system for myself that's going to encourage me to keep writing. As I increase the time of that sprint, I'm also going to get rewarded because I'm able to get more done. But it's not just words per minute that's a reward. See, our brain rewards us through distraction. And so by saying, I'm going to focus for 20 minutes, but after that, I'm not going to be focusing anymore, our brain looks forward to getting the satisfaction of being distracted. And we can actually build a reward system around the delayed gratification of not only feeling good because we've written something, but also feeling good because we're now able to be distracted guilt-free. And that guilt-free piece is the really important piece. And then third, and this one is sort of counterintuitive, but it's really true, writing sprints give us permission to block out the rest of the world. Often when we sit down to write, I know this is very true for me, I have a million things on my mind, and I feel like I have to address all of them right now. Now, often I don't address any of them. I just think about them. But with a writing sprint, I'm giving myself permission to not think about anything else in my life and only deal with what's going on the page, with the words that I'm putting out. Again, by giving myself those parameters, I am telling myself, hey, you can worry about everything else you have to worry about, but you have to do it later. It has to be after the 20 minutes is done. When I start to have a distracted thought, I think to myself, no, my sprint isn't done yet. The timer hasn't gone off. When I look at the clock, I don't think, oh man, what am I going to be doing later? I think, oh, I've only got 7 minutes left. I better get going. So these three things, increased focus, setting the reward system, and giving yourself permission to block out the rest of the world, these are the reasons that sprints work. Now, I don't write in sprints every day. Some people do, but I have found that over time, I've sort of gotten to the point where my time is better spent in bigger chunks. But even though I don't write in sprints every single day, I find it a really helpful tool to keep in my tool belt. On days when I'm having trouble focusing, I'll often shrink the amount of time that I'm going to be writing, and I'll start writing in sprints. And what I find happens is that gets my creative juices flowing. I end up getting back to a place where I can focus again. And it's because I've trained myself through writing sprints to really hone in and focus my attention when I need to. If you're a new writer and you've never tried this before, I would really, really recommend it. Sprints are a fantastic way to build your confidence, increase your word count, and just practice being a better writer. I like to use a sprint bot on Discord, but you can just use 2 timers. That's how I started. And even if you aren't a writer, this method of doing difficult work is really, really good. If you have a difficult task that you need to do that you just don't want to do or you can't do it, set a timer for 5 minutes. Tell yourself, I'm only going to do this task for 5 minutes and then I'm going to be done. Set the timer, do the task. And then if you want an extra challenge, at the end of it, take a 2-minute break and then run a second sprint immediately after it. You'll find out pretty soon that those tasks that you thought were just such a drag and almost unconquerable are all of a sudden getting done. It works for just about anything, but the key is to start small. Don't try to run 30-minute sprints from the beginning. Instead, stick to 5-minute sprints until you're comfortable starting the sprint. You want to repeat the action as many times as you can so that it just feels natural. Over time, you're going to find that your sprints will naturally lengthen. And then one day you're going to sit down, start writing, and an hour will go past and you'll realize you haven't even looked up once.